Welcome back to Design for More. I'm Julie, and today's episode is especially close to my heart. Whether you're a projector, you love one, or raising one, or find yourself working closely with one, this episode is for you. And in fact, my intention is that it's not just an episode. I intend for this to be a love letter, to feel like a deep exhale, a reminder that you were never meant to keep up, dear projector, because your power was and is never in the push. It always is in your presence. And this episode is part of a signature series. By signature, I mean a reference in human design to what alignment or misalignment can feel like. So consider this series an exploration of what you're here to experience when you trust your design, and how to know what the feelings are that really kind of tap us on the shoulder and guide us, sometimes maybe even confront us to know when we're misaligned. And for projectors, the signature of alignment is success. So today I want to walk you through what it means to be a projector, what makes you different, what makes you brilliant, and how the world shifts truly when you give yourself permission to slow down, see clearly, and honor your design. So let's start at the root. What is a projector in human design? Well, firstly, let's start with the fact that projectors are non-sacral beings. This means that the sacral center, so our gut, our womb space, that steady motor of sustainable go, go, go energy that powers generators and manifesting generators, as we reviewed in episode 4. Well, this energy center is undefined for projectors or open in the chart of a projector. What this means is that you have more of a wave rather than a steady hum like a generator or manifesting generator. Human design can refer to this wave as inconsistency or not having consistent access to that kind of fuel. But let me be very clear. That is not a flaw. It is by divine design. It's designed so that you can move in alignment. In some ways, I would even say so that you're protected in order to shine and give your gifts in the world that you are here to give. Ra Uru Hu, the founder or maybe channeler of human design, called projectors the newest energy type, here to guide the rest and especially to guide sacral beings. So manifesting generators and generators of the world who carry the life force energy, the power of the sacral center, but don't always know how best to use it. So for you, projector, your gift to this world is not in doing more, it's in seeing more. Your aura is focused and penetrating, so you have the capacity to see deeply into others. You literally can plug into and penetrate or feel not only people, but also systems, into potential, and literally into energy itself. My goodness. And when you're rested and recognized, your insight can shift everything. But when you're trying to be the energy instead of guide the energy, when you're trying to keep up or push through or borrow energy from those around you, you burn out fast. Because this isn't just about energy. It's about identity. We live in a world built for sacral beings. Generators and manifesting generators together represent about 70% of the population. Projectors, you're about 20. So the world, the culture we live in, praises output. It rewards busyness and it equates productivity with worth. So if you've been swimming in that current your whole life, it makes sense if you've internalized the idea that something's wrong with you. But let me be clear. There is nothing wrong with you. You were never meant to operate like the rest. You were meant to see what others can't, to hold the vision, to name the truth, and to offer a new way forward. But that clarity only comes in the pause. One of the biggest lies you've probably absorbed is that you must earn rest. That unless you've done enough, you can't take a break. Or that slowing down means you're falling behind. But for projectors, rest is necessary. It's sacred. It's what allows your system to recalibrate. It's what sharpens your vision, your clarity, and your knowing. Your design, which is literally to see. But seeing takes stillness, which is why your open or undefined sacral center is divinely designed. And rest doesn't have to mean doing nothing. It might look like reading or taking a bath. It very probably means going for a walk in nature. I don't think I've ever met a projector who does not have a love affair with their walks. But it could also mean journaling, creating in a way that restores you. But it also might literally mean lying down and closing your eyes for 20 minutes because your body needs it. And what you'll notice if you let yourself go there is that you come back sharper, more efficient, and more attuned. Because let me be clear about something else. Projectors are not inefficient. In fact, you're often the most efficient of all energy types. You might finish in 3 hours what someone else could take 8 to complete, but here's the trap. Culture will tell you to fit in the other 5 hours with something productive, and suddenly your gift becomes a burden. It becomes draining. And so here is your permission slip, projector. You do not need to justify your rest. You do not need to work 8 hours just because others do. You do not need to fill your day to be valuable. You're not here to run the engine. You're here to guide it. So let's talk a little bit more about success being that it's the signature for you, projector. And by signature, again, I mean that feeling that tells you you're living in alignment. Success isn't just about external accolades. It's not just the job title, the bank account, or the praise. It's an inner feeling first. Success feels like being seen for who you really are, being invited to share your wisdom, feeling that your perspective is valued, and operating your natural rhythm without shame. But also, let's not minimize that outer success. The thriving business, the paid offers, the income that reflects your value. These matter too because too many projectors I've worked with are undervaluing themselves, undercharging, overgiving, trying to keep up with sacral types, and then wondering why they're exhausted and under-resourced. You're meant to be well-resourced. You're literally designed to be received deeply in exchange for your wisdom. But that starts with valuing your wisdom yourself. It begins within. As within, so without. In this world, no one can truly invite you in unless you've already welcomed yourself first. So if there's a part of you that secretly wishes you were a generator, a manifesting generator, a manifester, please hear me. You are not broken. You're not less than. You're not missing anything. You're different, and that difference is sacred. You're not here to be the fire. You're here to see where the fire is needed, to direct it, to name it, to conserve it. And that is an incredible power. But you won't be recognized in that power until you recognize it yourself first, energetically. And that's how invitations are not just waited upon, but created. When you're standing tall in your projector power, owning your rhythm, your way of seeing, your timing, you become magnetic. And that's when the right people find you and say, I don't know what it is, but I need your eyes on this. Or, what do you see that I can't? But if you're waiting to be seen before you value yourself, it's going to feel like an endless wait and a painful one. And that pain can quickly become bitterness, which is the not self theme of the projector. It's the way that your guidance system tells you that you're not in alignment. Sometimes that bitterness doesn't just feel like resentment. Sometimes it can be externalized, like blame thoughts, like, why don't they see me? Why won't they invite me? Or it can turn inward into shame thoughts, like, there must be something wrong with me, or maybe I'm not valuable. And these are not failures of character. They're signs of a projector trying to survive in a world that hasn't been taught to recognize their brilliance. And naming this can help break the cycle, because once you see the pattern, You're no longer lost in it. You get to choose something new. And if you are in that space right now, then let me offer you this. You don't need to be chosen to be valuable. You don't need to be invited to begin nurturing your gifts, and you don't need to be fast or fiery to be impactful. Projector, you're a seer, a guide, a visionary, but only you can decide to trust that first. And when you do, the world will begin to reorganize around your trust. Now let's zoom into your aura. Projectors have a focused and penetrating aura. Your aura literally penetrates others and locks in, which makes you brilliant at seeing into someone, but also vulnerable if that connection is not right. In group settings, this can sometimes probably feel overwhelming. The depth of your perception can scatter, or you might try to read everyone, which leads to energetic depletion and maybe even bitterness. But in one-on-one relationships, your gifts can more easily shine. Your insight lands, your energy stays clean and coherent. And this is why projectors often thrive in close, intentional relationships, whether personal, professional, or spiritual, where you can truly see and, importantly, be seen. And when someone invites you in, when they say, "I'd love your perspective," that's the green light. That's go time. That's when your aura is received as a gift, not a threat. And this is also why not being invited can feel so painful. Because when your insight isn't wanted or seen, it can feel like a rejection. And if that happens enough, you might start shrinking, dimming, or hiding your gifts. But please hear me again. Your gifts are sacred, and the right people want what you see. But they'll only feel that truth when you're grounded, rested, and self-trusting enough to wait. So let's talk a little bit about energy hygiene, because projectors often borrow energy from the sacral beings around them. You might feel this if you love working in cafes or being in busy environments, because that buzz gives you a lift. But long-term, this can be exhausting, because once you're alone, your body can crash. It's like the feeling of feeling wired one minute and so tired the next. And that dynamic of like plugging into others is especially potent for projectors. Without a defined or consistent access to sacral energy, you just don't generate energy the same way that generators and manifesting generators do. But you absorb and amplify it when you're around them. So that might feel intoxicating, motivating, or maybe even addictive, especially if you've been conditioned to prove yourself through doing. But if you're not discerning, then that can lead to staying too long in relationships, jobs, or dynamics that drain you just to stay plugged in. And sometimes, probably most of the time, if it's not conscious, it's just the pull to feel energized. But when that energy source is misaligned, the crash, of course, always comes. And the resentment that follows is your signal. You're not here to be powered by someone else. You're here to tune into your own rhythm. And when you do that, you become a lighthouse for the right people, the right invitations, and the right recognition. In fact, I believe that you don't need to be powered by someone else, because there's source energy available to you at all times. And so this isn't to say that while projectors need rest, that you cannot create big things in this world and have a big life. Look at T. Swift, she's a projector. But let's go back to what we talked about in terms of how efficient you are, how well you can penetrate into others, into systems, into energy, and see the most efficient way forward. And for that reason, projector, you can create worlds. You can create very successful businesses. You can create whatever lights you up. We're going to talk about the niche next, and the trick really is the magic lies in how you follow the niche. It lies in honoring your own rhythm. It lies in following your strategy of waiting for the invitation before sharing things that are personal. And it lies in listening and honoring your body and what it needs. It lies in discharging your body of any energy that you might have absorbed and amplified that's no longer serving you. Letting go of relationships or dynamics or any yeses that you've said through conditioning. But you and your true nature and your true essence are unstoppable. You're incredible, you're brilliant, and we need you. You will often hear, if you're exploring human design, that projectors are here to find their niche. And let's talk a little bit about what that can mean. Projectors are here to see into systems. They're designed to see in ways that are so unique to them. And this is what's meant by a niche. It does not have to be a job title. It doesn't have to be a segmented audience, or it doesn't have to be an industry. It doesn't have to be a 5-step framework. It's simply your unique lens on the world, the thing you see that others often maybe totally miss. Examples of a projector working in their niche could look like a coach who specializes in nervous system work and teaches others how to regulate, or a projector who understands how teams operate and becomes an executive coach, or a projector mom who sees exactly what her neurodivergent child needs and becomes a guide to other parents. Or maybe a projector who runs a boutique photography studio, capturing moments that others overlook. Or a projector Pilates instructor who sees exactly what each student's body needs and guides them with surgical precision. A school teacher who knows when to intervene and when to let a child lead. A barista who builds such intentional connections that people return just to feel seen. So the key here is depth over breadth, mastery over multitasking, and insight over initiation. Projectors thrive wherever depth, clarity, and timing are needed. You don't need to coach to guide. Your guidance shows up through your presence, your precision, and your ability to see what others miss. When you start sharing from that place, even gently, even quietly at first, you begin to magnetize the invitations that are right for you. Projectors aren't designed to shout. You don't need to market yourself in the traditional way. But when you let yourself be visible in your zone of genius, then the right people notice. And that's success. That's flow. Even as you share your gifts, the challenge isn't always clarity, it's often courage. And one of the most painful patterns I've seen in projectors is the fear of saying no. You might stay in something, whether it's a relationship, a role, or even a way of being, because there's this deep fear that if you let go, nothing else will come, that no one else will invite you, or that this is the only shot. And I want to name that gently, but clearly, because that fear is not your fault, it's conditioning. It's a world that hasn't been taught to recognize projectors, leading many of you to clinging to what's misaligned, just to avoid the void. But that space is not failure. Space is power. When you're closing a door, you're clearing a path. You're signaling your worth. That's why guiding, not leading, is your path. So let's talk about what that means, because that can feel a little sticky. Guiding is not the same as leading. Leading is often about being out front, pushing the pace, directing the flow. But guiding is about seeing the bigger picture, sensing when the time is right, asking the questions that unlock the next step. And you're not here to force direction. You're here to illuminate it. And one of the most powerful tools you have as a guide are your questions. The way you ask questions, projector, that is your superpower. A projector's question isn't just curiosity, it's a compass. It reveals, it expands, it helps others access something they couldn't see before. In a world that's so full of noise and reactions, we need your way of asking, of pausing, of piercing through the clutter and seeing what actually matters. And this cannot be underestimated. So let me instead overemphasize the power of questions, projectors. A simple question can change someone's course. It can bring awareness in ways that we completely blocked before. It can bring light to the dark. It has the potential to expand, to transform. And projectors have the potential to ask the most powerful questions I've ever been asked, ever witnessed being asked. And questions activate us. They put us on a path of going from that question to another, From that question to the next right action, to another 1-degree move that ends up changing the course of our life potentially. And projectors, you bring us that gift in your stillness, in the honoring of your design. And it's not just your questions that change lives, it's your way of seeing. You don't just witness people, you reflect them, and not the version they're performing. You often see a part that they've hidden, maybe even from themselves. And here's the thing, being truly seen can feel like such a relief. It can feel so intimate and exactly what you're longing for. But for the other person, it can also feel like exposure. For the people around you, your recognition can be a mirror that, yes, sometimes makes them rise. But sometimes it can make them reach or cling to your presence or rely too much on your gaze, hoping that you'll keep reflecting them back because they don't yet trust what they saw. And that's not your failure, it's just your power. But it's also why projectors can find themselves feeling taken for granted or energetically drained or even blamed when others feel confronted by what you're reflecting. So just remember, projector, you're not here to carry others. You're not here to fix them. You're simply here to see clearly, to reflect honestly, and offer guidance when invited. You're not the source of anyone's power. You're the light, but you're not their sun. And so before we close, I want to speak to the rest of us, the ones who have been seen by a projector. If you're someone who's ever been seen by a projector, you know what I mean when I say it feels different. It's not surface level praise. It's not performance-based approval. It's like they see through the noise. They see a part of you, that part of you quietly wondering, am I crazy for wanting this? Does anyone even get what I'm trying to say? And then they do. It might be a sentence, a glance, or a voice note. The voice notes I've received from projectors after dropping podcast episodes or sharing something new and what feels like vulnerable to me on social media or in a co-facilitation of a women's circle. There's just something about the way a projector mirrors you back to yourself that feels like home, and that's the gift you carry, projector. That's the power of your penetrating aura. So if you've ever received that kind of recognition from a projector, please pause, honor it, recognize them, thank them. And if you love a projector or lead one or raise one, tell them what their presence means to you. We all long to be seen. It's the one thing that unites us all. But projectors also long to be received. And when they are, everyone around them rises. And for the projectors listening, I see you. I see the way you've tried to keep up, to push through, to make yourself fit a mold that was never made for you. I see the hours that you've been overgiving, hoping that if you just do enough, someone will finally notice. And I see the longing, the deep, aching desire to be recognized. So please let this be your permission to stop proving. Let this be your invitation to start honoring yourself. And not just when someone else sees you, but even in the quiet, even in the pause, even when the invitation hasn't come yet, because the recognition you're looking for starts with you. And the world needs you, not as a doer, but as a guide, not as a powerhouse, but for your presence. You're not here to chase, projector. You're here to change lives. And you do that simply by divinely being who you are. Let me paint you a picture. A projector with a thriving business who takes morning walks every day, naps in the afternoon, signs new clients while honoring her rhythm. A projector who works 3 days a week and makes more than they did in a 9-to-5 because their insight is valuable. A projector whose inbox is full of invitations, not because they shouted the loudest, but because they position themselves in their zone of genius and trust the timing. And this is not a fantasy. I have met these projectors. I've worked with them. I've watched them decondition from the push, reclaim their clarity, and align with a version of success that feels so deeply good. And I want that for you too, because you don't have to choose between rest and results. You don't have to sacrifice softness to be successful. And you certainly don't have to prove your worth to be well-resourced. As within, so without. When your inner clarity anchors and outer invitations come. When you trust your rhythm, the world feels it. You're here to show us that success doesn't have to come from the hustle. It can come from alignment. Because you, projector, are designed for more. See you all next time.